Welcome to 3 a.m. Tales Radio, where every story will take you beyond fear and mystery in the darkest hours of the night. Get ready, because when the clock strikes 3 a.m., every shadow has something to tell. First story, The Girl with Tangled Hair. The Girl with Tangled Hair. It was around 5 p.m. when my phone rang. The name on the screen made me smile. Ethan. "Hey, love," he said softly. "What are you doing?" "Nothing much," I replied. "Just leaving the office. I'll go back to my PG. Are you coming?" What he said next left me stunned. "Pack your bags," Ethan said. "We're going on a trip. It's Friday. Monday's a holiday, and I'll take Tuesday off. Just pack quickly and prepare some snacks. I'm on my way." That was Ethan, full of surprises. For the last month, we had been arguing about planning a long weekend. I wanted a trip. He kept insisting on visiting his parents. We both worked in London, lived in different PGs, met a few times a week. But weekends always belonged to his family. I had no one of my own. My uncle raised me, educated me. After his death, I became an unwanted responsibility in his family. 2 years ago, I moved into a PG. That's when I met Ethan, somewhere between conversations. And coffee breaks, love happened. We were both around 30. Our love was serious, mature. Yet we never dared to live together. That day, my feet felt light. I packed quickly, tied my walking shoes, and got ready. A missed call, Ethan had arrived. As soon as I sat in the car, I kissed him. "Be ready, Ruby," he laughed. "We're going to enjoy this." We drove all night. When the first sunlight appeared, we reached a small hill town in northern England, quiet and surrounded by forests. After exploring a bit, we found a peaceful riverside cottage. Big windows, a beautiful river flowing in front. Ethan knew exactly what I loved. We planned to rest first, but rest never happened. I woke up around 3 p.m. Ethan was still asleep. I got dressed and stepped out, looking for food. Suddenly, I heard someone humming. At the far end of the lobby, near a large window, a girl stood with her head resting against the glass. Her back was towards me. Her hair was tangled, curly, jet black. So which we weren't alone. Before I could say anything, Ethan called out, "Ruby, where did you go?" The girl turned and looked at me. She was extremely fair. She smiled. I smiled back. Around 4 p.m., we went towards the town. Hungry, we stopped at a small roadside cafe. The old owner offered to send lunch to our cottage. When we told him where we were staying, his face changed. The people around fell silent. Whispering started. It felt strange. By evening, we returned to the cottage. The caretaker, Noah, informed us they only served breakfast and tea, but we could cook ourselves. As I reached our room, a cold breeze brushed past me. While inserting the key, I heard soft music from the next room, sad, melodious. I remembered the girl. That night, rain started. Around 2 a.m., I woke up thirsty. The silence felt unreal. I opened the window, letting the rain touch my face. Suddenly, I heard crying, a man shouting, a woman sobbing. The voices felt muffled. Ethan woke up. "Why are you opening the window at night? This place is near the forest." I told him about the girl. He brushed it off. "Forget it. Tomorrow I'll take you to a waterfall." The next day, while leaving, Noah warned us not to climb to the top of the waterfall. Many people have died slipping from there. After a long trek, we reached the waterfall. Tourists everywhere. While Ethan talked to a vendor, I walked a little upward to take photos. That's when I saw her again. The girl with tangled hair, walking fast. I followed her, almost running. When she turned, I said hello. She smiled. Her eyes were deep black, beautiful, unnatural. "Are you alone here?" I asked. She nodded no. "I thought you were a foreigner." She smiled lightly. "I'm Indian." Ethan joined us. I introduced myself and lied. "This is my husband, Ethan." Her name was Sarah. She refused tea and walked toward the peak. Ethan warned her to be careful. She turned, smiled, and waved. She never came back down. That night, Ethan wasn't in bed. I found him standing near the lobby window, just like Sarah had stood. "I heard a sad tune," he said. "It led me here." The room beside ours was empty, untouched. Later, while cooking dinner, Noah got drunk and said, "You are the only guests here. For months now." My blood froze. Noah finally told us the truth. During British rule, this cottage belonged to an officer named Albert Keith. He brought an Anglo-Indian girl, Sarah, from Bengal. She loved him deeply. When the British left India, Albert planned to return to England, alone. He had a wife and children there. Sarah begged him to stay. He refused. She shot him, then jumped from the waterfall. Since then, people hear music, crying, humming. That night, Sarah came to me. She dragged me to the next room. Albert sat there, playing a violin. Sarah cried at his feet. Suddenly, a gunshot. I screamed. When I woke up, it was morning. We left immediately. As we drove away, strength slowly returned to my body. Near London, I asked Ethan quietly, "You won't leave me too, will you?" That evening, my phone rang. "Hey, love," Ethan said happily. "Get ready. Mom and Dad are coming." The girl with tangled hair had untangled my life. Second story, The Screaming Tunnel. The Screaming Tunnel. Years ago, near the quiet town of Brentwood, England, there was an old, abandoned railway tunnel. People said it was cursed, but nobody really believed it. One stormy night, a railway cleaner named Michael Turner took shelter near the tunnel. The wind was freezing, so he stepped inside and sat down in the shadows. His hands were shaking. He took out a box of matches and struck one for light. The first match went out. He struck another. That one burned out too. When he struck the third match, a blood-chilling scream exploded through the tunnel. Michael froze. Very slowly, he looked up, and above his head, clinging to the tunnel wall, like a lizard, was the shadow of a girl. Her face was completely burned, skin melted, eyes hollow, and she was screaming again and again, as if trapped in endless pain. The scream was so terrifying that workers outside the tunnel heard it. They ran down, bent over, and looked inside. Michael was lying on the ground, unconscious, a burnt match still between his fingers. They dragged him out and rushed him to the hospital. He survived, but something inside him broke. He kept repeating the same story over and over again about the burned girl in the tunnel. Within weeks, he lost his sanity. Locals believe the girl was once trapped in a fire and died inside the tunnel, and her spirit never left. Even today, people say, if you stand exactly in the middle of the tunnel and light a single match, you will hear that same scream, but it takes real courage, because while doing it, your life may be in danger. Third story, The Third Match. The third match. As the night grew colder, the cleaner stepped deeper into the old tunnel on the outskirts of Ravenshire, Canada. To escape the icy wind, he found a corner, sat down, and began striking matches for a bit of light. He lit the first match. It flickered, then died. He lit the second. The flame vanished again. The moment he struck the third match, a terrifying scream echoed through the tunnel, so loud that it felt like the darkness itself was screaming. Slowly he looked up. Right above his head, clinging to the tunnel wall like a lizard, was the shadowy figure of a girl. Her entire face looked burned, melted, and disfigured, and she kept screaming again and again, as if trapped in unbearable pain. The scream was so horrifying that people working above the tunnel heard it. They rushed over, leaned down, and peered inside, only to see the cleaner lying unconscious on the cold ground, still holding a matchstick in his hand. Somehow, they managed to pull him out and rushed him to the hospital. He survived, but after a few days, his mind began to break. He kept telling everyone what he had seen, and then slowly lost his sanity. Locals say that even today the spirits still linger there. And if you ever stand in the middle of that tunnel and strike a match, you can still hear that same dreadful scream. But it takes tremendous courage, because doing so may cost you your life. Fourth story, The Confession of the Restless Spirits. The Confession of the Restless Spirits. I failed to live the life I was meant to live. The first spirit began. In the country of Eldoria, my duty was to serve the priests, the warriors, and the merchants, to support society with honesty and discipline. But instead, I wasted my days in laziness, gossiping, slandering others, and talking behind people's backs. When our nation fell into crisis, I did nothing. I did not help anyone. I spread rumors among the clergy, the knights, and the traders, turning them against one another and leading society astray. I did not live even as a responsible citizen. I never helped with farming, animal care, or protecting our land. I didn't even serve my parents or my teachers. So when I died, the earth itself refused to accept me, and I became a wandering spirit. A foul smell filled the air, and the second spirit began to speak. My sin is even worse, he said. Before this ghostly existence, I lived in North Vale and I was a poet, a writer. My parents educated me so that I could serve humanity through my words. But the books I wrote taught people jealousy, hatred, suspicion, and slander. I filled society with stories that encouraged lust and empty entertainment. People read my work and became confused and divided. Families began fighting, children insulted their parents, and communities fell into chaos, as if an age of darkness had come. Through my writing, I could have built a better world. But instead, I sent people in the wrong direction. Others before me may still have a chance at redemption, but I fear mine is impossible. When I died, even the earth rejected me, and I fell not only into the realm of spirits, but into the realm of demons. The stench you smell is from my cursed body. The sage standing before them, an old hermit known across Arden Valley, and finally spoke. Tell me what can be done to help you, so that you may be freed from this torment. All the spirits answered together. Great sage, our salvation will come only when you go to the world of the living and tell our story. When people hear what became of us, they will despise our actions, and they will return to their true duties, living according to wisdom and moral law. A cultured and righteous society will rise again, and only then will our souls find peace. Please go and tell them our tale. The narrator paused. I cannot say whether such an event really happened with a sage of the old scriptures, but when we look around our modern world, at the media, films, and the internet, we see how easily corruption, immorality, and cruelty spread. The question is, will we become true reformers, or will we continue feeding the darkness? Fifth story, the man who rose from the funeral pyre. The man who rose from the funeral pyre. In a quiet countryside town in Ravenfield, an old hermit known as Father Elias died, or at least everyone believed he had. His body had turned pale and cold, and the villagers performed all the rituals. They placed him on the funeral pyre, but before the fire could be lit, Elias suddenly sat up and climbed down. He calmly walked back home, leaving the stunned mourners frozen in fear. News spread everywhere. People came from distant towns, curious to see the man who had come back from the dead. About a week later, a group of men were discussing the incident outside the local priest house. Some said Elias had never truly died, that his breath had simply slowed. Others argued, we checked him ourselves, he was ice cold. He was gone. While they debated, Elias himself stepped outside and quietly said, no, I truly died. Many laughed, thinking he was joking, but Elias insisted. Then he told them what had happened. Elias' story. That day, he began, I was sitting on my wooden cot when suddenly everything went dark. I don't remember falling, only that I felt people lifting me. I could hear voices around me, but my eyes were closed. After some time, I forced them open and realized I was floating with 2 or 3 strange figures. They didn't look human. Their clothing was unlike anything I'd ever seen. Yet I felt no fear, and I didn't even realize I was dead. I was simply moving with them through the air. He paused. I remember their faces only faintly now. Soon, we reached what looked like a grand court, like a king's throne room. Many beings sat there, all shaped like people, yet made of something like mist or air. On the throne sat a massive figure. Beside him stood a tall man with a mark on his forehead holding a large book. The marked man whispered something to the giant ruler while pointing at me. They spoke back and forth for a few minutes. Then several more figures were summoned, and they were assigned to escort me. The mistake. Elias continued. They took me out of the court and began moving quickly in one direction. As we traveled, the group slowly split apart until finally only one being remained with me. He carried me toward a village, and I saw my own house. He looked troubled, almost confused. Then another being, who looked exactly like him, appeared, took me away, and brought me toward the funeral grounds. I remember everything clearly until we reached the pyre. After that, nothing. The next moment, I awoke, sitting up, and wondered why I had been brought there at all. From what I understood, in that court, the man with the book had said, you brought the wrong one. He was not meant to be taken. Life after death. People who knew Elias believed every word. He was known never to lie. For the next 5 to 6 years, he lived quietly. But he was no longer the same man. He never became angry. He never fell ill. He treated everyone with deep kindness. Those who visited him said it felt like speaking to someone who had already seen the world beyond. Whether his experience was real or not, no one could ever say. But everyone in Ravenfield agreed. Father Elias came back changed, and he changed everyone who heard his story. Sixth story, the old cemetery. The old cemetery. This isn't a movie plot. It's something I experienced with my own eyes. Our company had organized a picnic at a resort on the outskirts of Brighton City. First, everyone played cricket and outdoor games, and later we all headed to the resort's water park. Only a few people actually knew how to swim. Those who could swim went straight into the deep pool, while the rest stayed in the shallow area. Among friends, we made a challenge. We'll toss a coin into the pool. Whoever finds it the fastest wins. One by one, everyone dived in, but no one could find the coin. Then it was my turn. I jumped into the water, and the entire scene changed. Instead of the pool floor, I saw the ground far below, at least 20 to 25 feet down. And beneath me, There was an old cemetery. Among the graves stood a woman, pale, foreign-looking, clearly not from our country. In her hand was the same coin we had thrown. She was holding it up, as if waiting specifically for me. It felt like I was falling under a spell. Slowly, I drifted toward her, unable to stop myself. Within moments, I was standing right in front of her. I reached out and took the coin from her hand. The moment I turned to swim back, she grabbed my wrist. Now our faces were inches apart. In that instant, her face twisted. Her skin melted into a horrifying shape. Blood began streaming from her eyes. Her lips curled into a terrifying smile. My entire body froze with fear. I yanked my hand free with all my strength. The cemetery vanished. The woman disappeared. And suddenly, I was back inside the swimming pool. It felt like waking up from a nightmare. I rushed out, gasping for breath, coughing uncontrollably. My friends ran over and helped me sit down. After a while, I calmed down. Everyone kept asking what had happened, but I only shook my head and said nothing. Then I opened my hand. The coin was still there. My friends cheered, thinking I had simply won the challenge. They tossed another coin and suggested we play again. But I refused to go back into the water. Evening came, and it was time to leave. A few of us stepped outside the resort for a smoke. My friends were laughing loudly, still joking about the competition. Nearby, an elderly man was listening to us. He smiled and said casually, "Back in the colonial days, this place used to be a cemetery. Maybe you saw the ghost of someone buried here." Everyone laughed, except me, because deep inside I knew what I saw in that water was real. 7th story. The Curse of the Old Forest. The Curse of the Old Forest. That night, the party began, and within minutes, the British officers lost their courage completely. The two young spirit women, who had first appeared stunningly beautiful, suddenly twisted into horrifying shapes, faces so terrifying that even the bravest men would have wet themselves at the sight. Then it began. The ghostly women brought crystal glasses, but instead of wine, they filled them with blood and forced the officers to drink. None of the men dared refuse. Every single one of them trembled in terror. Suddenly, the tribal youth, now fully transformed into a monstrous spirit, leaped up and grabbed a massive tree branch overhead. With a cracking sound, the thick branch snapped like a twig. Before anyone could react, he pounced on one of the hunters, pinned him to the ground, and ripped him apart, drinking his blood as it poured out. Seeing this, the two spirit women joined him, tongues long and demonic, claws tearing through flesh as they fed like beasts. One of the ghost women shrieked, then rushed at another British officer. Her spear-like nails pierced directly into his eye sockets. She tore both eyes out and swallowed them. One by one, the hunters were slaughtered, until none remained alive. The next morning, British officials searching for the missing hunters found their bodies. What they discovered was indescribable. Mangled corpses shredded so violently that no one could believe a human, or even an animal, was capable of it. Only Daniel, the local caretaker, knew the truth. But he never told anyone. Days later, in secret, Daniel burned the skeleton of the young spirit woman and performed a ritual to release her soul. This may sound like fiction, but sometimes reality isn't far behind, especially for those who abuse power, exploit others, and think nothing can ever touch them. Do only the kind of deeds you'd want others to do toward you and your family. Justice always finds a way. 8th story. The Girl by the Window. It was 5 p.m. when my phone rang. It was Ethan, and like always, he said softly, "Hey love, what are you doing?" I replied, "Nothing much. Just leaving the office, heading back to my apartment." "What about you? Coming over?" What he said next completely shocked me. "Pack your bags. We're going on a trip. It's Friday, Monday's a holiday, and I'll take Tuesday off. Just pack quickly and grab something for the road. I'll be there soon." Ethan always loved surprising me. For a month we had argued about planning a trip, and now suddenly, here it was. We both worked in Berlin, living in different rented places. We would meet a few times a week, but weekends were always reserved for his parents. I had no family of my own. My uncle had raised me, but after his death, I no longer felt welcome. For the past 2 years, I had lived alone, and that's where I met Ethan. Slowly, friendship turned into love, the quiet, mature kind. We were both around 30, and although we loved each other deeply, we never gathered the courage to live together. That day, I was unbelievably happy. I packed fast, tightened my walking shoes, and rushed downstairs. Ethan arrived. I threw my luggage in, sat beside him, and kissed him. He smiled. "Get ready, Ruby. We're going to have the best weekend." We drove all night. By sunrise, we had reached a small village in the Swiss Alps, snow-covered mountains, Pine trees and silence. We found a beautiful cottage near a river, large windows, peaceful surroundings. Ethan knew exactly what I loved. We decided to nap first, but Ethan soon turned romantic, and eventually I drifted into a deep sleep. I woke around 3 p.m., he was still asleep, so I quietly got up looking for something to eat. That's when I heard someone softly humming. I opened the door. At the end of the corridor, by a big window, a girl was resting her head against the glass, humming a haunting melody. Her back was towards me, long, messy, dark curls. Ethan called from inside, "Ruby, where are you?" The girl turned. She was extremely pale, but she smiled. I smiled back. Later, we left the cottage and stopped at a small roadside cafe. The old man there asked where we were staying. When we told him, everyone at the cafe suddenly grew quiet. They whispered, but said nothing. That strange feeling lingered. That night, back at the cottage, I heard soft music from the next room, sad, lonely. Ethan teased me, pulled me close, and I forgot everything. At around 2 a.m., I woke again to the sound of crying. A man shouting. A woman sobbing. The voices sounded buried, like coming from far away. When I mentioned the girl from earlier, Ethan laughed it off. "Forget it. Tomorrow I'll take you to a waterfall. Come sleep." The next day, we hiked to a beautiful waterfall. Vendors were selling coffee and snacks, families were laughing, it felt normal again. I climbed higher to get a better photo, and suddenly, the same girl appeared ahead of me. She was walking fast. I rushed and caught up. "Hey, are you alone?" She shook her head softly. Her face was white as snow, eyes dark, strangely beautiful. "Where are you from?" I asked. Quietly, she replied, "I'm from here." I assumed she was a tourist like us. I introduced myself and lied, "This is my husband, Ethan." She smiled gently and said her name, Sarah. Ethan invited her for tea. She refused politely and began climbing. Toward the top, we never saw her come back down. That evening, at the cottage, Ethan found himself standing again by that big window. He said, "I heard a sad tune, like someone calling." Curiosity pulled us into the next room. It was completely empty, as if no one had stayed there at all. That night, Ethan ordered vodka and chicken. The caretaker, Lucas, joined us. After a couple of drinks, he said, "You two are the only guests here. For months now, no one else stays." Ethan laughed nervously. I argued, "But a girl is staying in the next room. I've seen her twice." Luca went pale. He whispered, "There is no girl." Then reluctantly, he told us the truth. The cottage used to belong to a British officer, Albert Keith, during World War days. He brought a young Anglo-Indian woman here, Sarah. She loved him deeply, unaware he already had a wife and children in England. When the British finally left Europe, Albert prepared to leave too, but not with Sarah. Heartbroken and betrayed, she begged him not to go. He refused. In rage and despair, she shot him and then threw herself from the nearby waterfall. Since then, people sometimes hear crying, humming, or music at night. I tried to sleep, but sometime past midnight, I woke up to someone shaking me. It was Sarah. Her voice sounded like it was echoing from a deep well. She dragged me into the next room, and suddenly I was no longer in the cottage. I was watching the past unfold. Albert on a chair, playing violin. Sarah kneeling, begging, "Please, Albert, don't leave me." He ignored her. She lifted the gun. A blast. "Smoke!" I screamed. Ethan and Luca rushed in, but the room was empty again. Morning came. I felt weak, as if life had drained out of me. Ethan packed quickly, and we left. The cafe owner saw our pale faces and said quietly, "We wanted to warn you, but city people never believe." Sarah still waits, searching for someone to listen to her story. On the way back to Berlin, one thought haunted me. Why did she choose me? What did she want me to understand? As the city appeared in sight, I turned to Ethan. "You won't leave me someday, right?" He just looked at me, silent. Life went back to normal. One evening, my phone rang. "Hey, love, get ready. My parents are coming. I want them to meet you." And in that moment, I realized that lonely girl with tangled hair had untangled my life. Ninth story. The last ride at 3 a.m. My name is Mark, and I'm from a small town in Colorado, USA. Today, I'm going to tell you a true incident that happened to my closest friend. Something that still chills me to the bone. My friend's name was Daniel, and we had known each other since childhood. We shared everything, secrets, problems, happiness, everything. When we joined college, his engagement had already been arranged. He deeply loved his fiancée, Emma, and they would talk on the phone all night long. The first sign. One night, Daniel called me and said something strange had happened. He had been talking to Emma as usual when suddenly, her voice changed, deep, harsh, not hers at all. That voice said, "Don't talk too much, or I'll bury you right where you stand." Daniel was shocked. He thought she was joking and replied, "Really? Let's see what you can do." The voice answered, "Tonight, you'll find out." And the call disconnected. The visitor at 3 a.m. Around 3 a.m., Daniel woke up suddenly, as if someone had shaken him. Sitting at the edge of his bed was a tall man with a long white beard, dressed in an old coat. The man said coldly, "So, here you are. Now watch what happens to you." He lunged forward and wrapped his hands tightly around Daniel's throat. Daniel couldn't breathe, his vision blurred. Out of sheer fear, he began praying out, calling out to God. And in an instant, the man vanished, the terrifying truth. The next day, Daniel confronted Emma about the phone call. But Emma calmly said, "What are you talking about? I didn't call you last night." Daniel felt the blood run cold through his veins. A few days later, he received news that Emma had fallen very sick and wanted to see him. We went to her house together. When she opened the door, she stared at Daniel, and in a deep, inhuman voice said, "You came again. Take one more step inside, and I'll kill you here." Before Daniel could react, she grabbed a framed picture off the wall and smashed it over his head. He fell, bleeding. Her family restrained her, apologizing and explaining in fear. It's like something has taken over her. But her grandfather finally whispered, "She is possessed." Doctors had no answer. They took her to the hospital. Doctors ran tests, blood work, scans. Everything came back normal. Yet she was dying. No one could explain it. The doctors finally said, "Take her home. There is nothing more we can do." One last hope, but her grandfather suggested they take her to an old monastery, about 50 miles away, where a respected priest was known to help people troubled by dark spirits. The priest listened carefully, then said, "A powerful entity has attached itself to her. It wants to destroy her and anyone she loves." He added, "There is only one way left. She must be taken to the monastery's sacred chapel, and she must be accompanied by the person she loves the most." Daniel didn't hesitate. "I'll take her. I can ride. I'll get her there." The priest warned him that it was dangerous, especially at night, but time was running out. The final ride. At 3 a.m., Daniel placed Emma on the back of his motorcycle, wrapped a blanket around her, and started the dark mountain road toward the monastery. Half an hour later, my phone rang. A trembling voice on the other end said, "There's been an accident. Daniel and Emma didn't survive." I rushed to the site. The bike lay shattered. The road was quiet. 2 lives all gone. My best friend was no more. Sometimes when I think back, I still wonder, was it just fate or something darker that refused to let them go? 10th story, The Phantom Bus. The Phantom Bus. My name is Ethan Collins, and I'm from a small town near Bristol, England. The story I'm about to share happened to my father many years ago. At that time, he worked for the local municipal council. His duty post was at a checkpoint on a lonely country road, about 3 kilometers away from our town. Back then, people didn't own many cars, so my father used to travel on his bicycle. His shifts were often late at night. Since our house was near that road, one night around 1 a.m., he left for work as usual. The air was cold, the orchards around the road were silent, and only a couple of dim streetlights lit the way. When he reached the checkpoint, he noticed a bus slowly approaching from the distance. It stopped right at the barrier. The driver leaned out and told the conductor to get down and check whether they had reached the checkpoint. Seeing the bus, my father felt relieved. At least he wouldn't be alone that night. But when nobody stepped out of the bus, he went inside the small checkpoint office and found the guard there fast asleep. My father woke him up and said, "Hey, there's a bus outside, and you're sleeping." Startled, the guard replied, "I didn't hear anything." Still, he followed my father outside, and to their shock, there was no bus at all. The road was empty, silent, and dark. My father was terrified. How could a full-size bus vanish like that? The guard calmly said, "Ask the villagers tomorrow. They'll tell you everything." The next morning, my father spoke to a local farmer. He explained what he had seen, a bus full of passengers that suddenly disappeared. The farmer sighed and said, 5 years ago, a bus met with a terrible accident at that very checkpoint. The driver, the conductor, and around 30 passengers died on the spot. Since then, many people have seen the same bus appear at night, only to fade away. Hearing this, my father was deeply shaken. He never saw the phantom bus again, but even today, whenever he tells us the story, a chill runs down our spines. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Stay with us for more thrilling, mysterious, and spine-chilling stories. Remember, Behind every story lies a secret that could shake you to your core.